Hello, everybody. We are live. We are right on time. That's what I love. It's like Heather's like, there's construction, and I don't know. I'm just leaving now from my office, and then sure enough, it's like she walked in about 3 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, we got time.
The beauty of that is though, I was like, oh, I'm going to be there in right on time, and then it was, oh, there's construction.
Yes.
So just so you know, my energy was like, oh, it is what it is. I was not frazzled at all.
So that reminds me of one of my other Freedom Fridays. And you saw me. Remember we had that meeting and I was walking out down the road to take a picture of the roadblock?
Oh, yeah.
So powerful that when we have these kind of roadblocks and things and we just surrender to it versus if we get, which really leads us into what your practice is all about, the Nurtured Heart approach. So kind of give us a rundown of what that is all about.
Well, you know, with what you just said, I was creating the clarity that what I was in the moment. It wasn't the original plan. Nevertheless, what I did is I honored the three stands. The framework of the Nurtured Heart approach is 1, I'm not going to energize negativity. 2, I'm going to energize the positive. Or in other words, the truth of the situation without the story wrapped around it. And stand 3 is clarity, like the rules and consequences. For kids, it's the rules and consequences. For us, it's, okay, our rules are what are the things that you value and what consequences are you going to get out of, like, what your rules are, whatever values or beliefs. So at the point that I had a morning in a really intense session, and then I'm running behind, I got in my car, and the truth of the moment is I trusted the process. I sent the energy of trust that I'm going to get from point A to point B just on time, and that's okay. I was respectful, and I honored in myself that I was respectful, that I informed you, sent that energy of trust. Then I hit the construction, and I'm going to sit there. And then I giggled. The beauty is I chose to giggle because, of course, there's construction, just to be sure I am tapped into living in the present moment and not creating any story. And I'll still be on time. And I was. And then I got here, and I took a moment to self-care to ensure that there wasn't any energy bubbling up in there that didn't need to dissipate. Now, if I would have come in here and I would have been frazzled, because sometimes we get a little frazzled, I would have harnessed that energy and I would have used it to support me to be right here, right now, tenaciously.
Wow. So I love what you just said. Could you expand on that idea of, sometimes when we have those like spin out kind of moments, that intensity, we can immediately just get sucked into that experience, and then we get into that cycle of beating ourselves up for being that experience, and that just keeps us stuck. But you're talking about harnessing that energy, harnessing it as a gift and as a power. Can you speak to that a little more?
Yeah, we have a choice with our physiology. We have a choice of what to do with our energy. And when you're looking through the lens of the truth of who you are and seeing through the lens of your heart and feeling through the lens of your heart, rather than up here in the brain that says, everything's chaotic, then you just get in that negative relationship and give it all kinds of negative meaning. But if you're choosing to see, here's this raw energy, what an amazing gift. I can breathe this energy and I can breathe it into my heart. I can breathe it deeply into my heart. I can appreciate how wonderful it is that I have this insight and awareness of all of these big emotions that really ultimately stem from deep love and care for whatever I'm really wanting to rise to the occasion for. So I get clear with that intention. I get to recycle it. I get to renew it. I get to use that as the compost to nurture the qualities of how I want to show up and be present.
Wow. So, that's one of the things we've just been tapping into through all of these Freedom Fridays is how we can live from heart space, right? And it's a beautiful concept. This is where our spirit is embodied. This is where our greatness is embodied. And we can speak about it all we want, but when we're living as embodied humans with these practical realities, to have these different ways of being able to approach the intensities of experience and to reframe and look at it like, this is the compost for nurturing our own heart. We can channel that energy through heart space and it becomes our gift.
Yeah, and our exhale in that moment of is really like you are shifting your physiology, you are shifting the chemistry through your body. You are nurturing your cells. You're taking something that can metastasize in your body as negative chemicals that impact your immune system and your stress response. And you get to like shift the actual chemistry in your body. You get to actually nurture the cells in your body in a way that's in service. So you have to be in service to yourself, and then you're in service to others by way of you being able to have presence that's authentic to what you meant in the first place. Because we often mean well, and then everything gets stumbly.
Right, right. So it's like we may, we talk about being in our heart space and approaching all of life from that space, but when you have these other frequencies, you're not really coming from heart space, because that's going to be what other people feel, respond to, are triggered by. And that's kind of the next piece I want you to tap into. So how I connected with Heather was through my own experience, having 4 lovely children, and one particularly beautifully intense, expressive son, who really began having an intense time when he turned 8. And it was so intense that I was beyond my capacity. I had no idea what I could do to be able to support him at that time. And that's when we aligned through, again, when we get into the big, beautiful story of how I connected in with her. But when I began practicing this, first of all, when I first approached her, and I think this happens for a lot of people, they approach because of something that's happening in relationship or connection, whether it's with a partner or it's a child. In particular, you work a lot with kids. Is that right?
Yeah, I work a lot with kids. I'm honestly pretty equal between adults and kids.
Yeah.
And even a lot of adults for their adult kids.
Yes, and of course they're all children. We are forever. But the Nurtured Heart approach initially was developed with that angle,
with children,
and really focusing on children.
And channeling intensity and recognizing that intensity is the source of our greatness. It is our life force. It is our life force.
Yes, absolutely. So for myself, at first I even just saw like, okay, so I'm doing this to support my son and my relationship with my son. And I began practicing it with him. Saw incredible results immediately. I mean, we're talking behaviors like beating up his sisters to not beating up his sisters within a week, behaviors that had created a lot of digestive issues and headaches that within a couple of weeks they resolved. And I think the most beautiful piece was after maybe a month of the practice is to see exactly what she's saying, that this intensity is his spirit. And he just was there's so much that he was having difficulty. How do I express this? How do I embody this in this like little 8-year-old body, And for him, that allowed him, when he was able to get to a point where it wasn't just all the time, he could channel it into creativity. So I actually will post I actually go deeper into the story and some of the things that have come out as he's broken through level and level. But what I want to get to on this is I had an awakening pretty early on, because I'm tuned in enough like, this, I have to do this with me. I have to do this with me. I have to really be doing this work with me, because it is one thing, and my kids called me out on it early on, when it was like something where it's like, I'm practicing this, and we're going to do this, and I'm going to change the way I use my words, and I'm going to use words, and I'm going to appreciate you. And they started like making fun of me. And the piece that they were bringing to the surface was that it's like, all right, Mom, you're saying these words, but I wasn't aligning, right? I wasn't fully embodying it yet. So we all have that time frame where we're still processing something and getting to that higher level. But it was interesting to see them call me out on it, and then to step up and be like, okay, I need to literally become the embodiment of this concept. And when I do, it's like, I think we've talked about it, and I'd love you to touch on this. It's like, it becomes wordless. At first, it's like you're using a lot of words, and you're changing, there's patterns and structure, and then all of a sudden, it's just happening. Like, because you're so aligned, you walk into a room, and whatever's happening just transforms. So can you speak to a little more to what I'm talking about? Because I know you see it again and again.
Yeah, this approach is sneaky. Say you come in because you want to support your children, everything happens in relationship. Everything is about connection and that sense of belonging. So when you can, shift where your expectation are, and trade that for appreciation and seeing that the truth of the moment and the qualities in the moment something's happening, there's so much power. And it's very, very difficult to kind of like, first you find your words, because the importance of finding the words is all words have energy. All words have energy and they have impact and they all have story, and that all affects your physiology. So you definitely start in the practice of words. The beautiful thing is, even when you're saying those words and you hadn't fully aligned and you're acknowledging that, that they notice, they're paying attention. And I always say how awesome that is. So you say, oh, I love that you noticed that I'm doing something different to connect with you. You are so observant. I love what a great listener you are. Oh, Mom, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and that's okay. And yeah, aligning then it does. You energetically feel the differences, and you can walk into the room, and we all know what Mama feels like when she walks into a room. You don't have to say a word, but if you're tuning in, I'm going to be in the present moment, and I'm going to notice and see the greatness of any particular moment. That I am going to be the director of what's happening here. I'm not going to get caught up in the drama. I'm not going to be in the movie. I'm going to be behind that camera lens. I'm going to be able to zoom out.
Can you go through, actually first I want to, Lindsay, and I know Lindsay, so this is big, this is juicy, Lindsay, pay attention. So she's saying, wow, that's so powerful. How often do we have spin out moments and get sucked into it? Harness that energy and see through the heart, choosing to see that raw energy and breathe the energy into insight and awareness of big emotions. Stem from deep love and care. Really, really love this. Yes. So this is going to be important for Lindsay and all of you out there. So Lindsay has an adorable little young dude. And so I forget how old he is, Lindsay. Maybe you can pop that in the comments. But he talk about like big. He was at the celebration. Remember there were two little tots? Okay. He was the one with curly hair. Okay. So yeah, and I remember he was going to the flower. Like there were, I got goosebumps. He's the fullness of his spirit. You can just see he's so much bigger than that little body. But she's his mama. And so I know she would love to hear from you, kind of a rundown again. We briefly mentioned what those 3 stands are, and how that might show up, like how you might practice that. Like when you got, like let's say you have a screaming child, in the middle of the night, and it's like 1 a.m. hour.
Like okay, in that situation, you're not going to energize negative. You're going to energize the positive, and you're going to be clear about the rules and the consequences. Now, how that rules consequences show up, that's really loaded. Firstly, we have to start working on stand 1 and stand 2. First, most important thing is you don't want to energize negativity, which does not mean you ignore. Right. It means you don't give a lot of relationship and connection over what's going wrong.
Right.
So if you're right now having a little tantrum, go ahead, have one.
Right.
Like, no. I noticed right now, you're so cool. I'm impressed. You're just sitting, I noticed, look at you sitting up like that. You are taking such great care of yourself right now. Now, it won't always happen that smooth, but what I did in that moment, I'm not going to energize it, but I'm going to look for the moment. The moment she took the breath, I'm going to lean in with the same intensity that I'm being given and attempt to give recognition to that moment of the effort in one way or another. Yeah. And if I then get spit on or more yelling, then I'm just going to turn my energy away. And I'm waiting for the moment I can give recognition so that I'm turning it around. So that it's, you get love, relationship, and connection with me when you're showing up in the truth of who I trust that you are. And the moment you're showing who I know that you are, I'm going to recognize that. Wow. And because what's happening in that moment is I'm giving you the opportunity to reset. you're going to learn to self-soothe by way of me not energizing. You know, if you have a video game, you know, and you're out of the video game, that nobody's going to get back in the video game if you're getting scolded or you have to go back and look at the directions. There's a pause. And as soon as you get yourself together again, you get to get back in the game. And I'm going to notice you and recognize you right away. My love is not conditional. My love is unconditional. And I'm going to love you in the right moments. And I'm going to do it with fierceness.
Yeah, so it's not energizing the negative. It's like you're holding the space for whatever is going down. Like you're present, but you're not connecting into it. So because what they're really wanting, what the child is wanting is attention and connection and relationship. And what they've learned through practice is when I have a tantrum, when I get sick, when, you know, I hit my sister, then you're going to pay attention to me. Because that's really what it's,
intimate attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me do energy gate 1, honey. Sit with me. Let me hold you, right? So it's all love. So it's being able to have, I mean, as a mom at first it was like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's good. It's all coming from love. And it's learning, I mean, literally just how to flip it in another direction. And it's still love from this different angle that is so much more, like for me, where I got to in my own experience, and I still do from time to time, is like, I'd be in my space over here and things were so good. And it would get to be time to go home, and I'm like, oh God, I can't do this. I can't handle this. I'd start to get nervous and feel, you know, get digestive, upset, because, you know, that the energy drain of being in that relationship and in connection in that way, where it was just like, because it was sucking the life out of me and it was miserable. So when you can make the shift, and I'm telling you, it's really, I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but it's amazing how quickly kids respond to this because they want that connection. Because that really is the purpose. That really is the purpose of the acting out, is to develop relationship and connection. You're just showing them and teaching them another way.
Yeah, for healthy relationship connection.
Yes.
Any attention seeking, it's relationship seeking. And you just have to flip that. When it comes to the energy piece of things, like if she were just now having the tantrum for like 10 minutes and there was no breathing room, like for me to give any recognition. While I'm sitting here, as you're noticing, I'm sitting here like this, I'm also resetting. I'm ensuring that I am reset to my best self. And I'm sitting here in the moment that she's having the tantrum, and I'm ensuring that my energy does not get drained. I am fully connected and aligned with the energetic truth that I am self-caring. I am supporting that I am trusting that my child is going to attune to me. I have to be attuned so that my child attunes to my energy, because it will happen. I mean, I can do a whole lot without words.
Yeah.
A whole lot without words. And just having that strong, solid presence, that makes you safe. And safety is needed in those moments. You know, the child's in fight or flight. And by way of you taking those deep breaths and you're in observation, then you don't get caught up in what's happening, and you can really support navigating that shift.
And I think that's also really, really important to bring up, because when you're, I may or may not have said it in these Freedom Fridays, but it's worth saying again, the highest spiritual relationship is that we have with our children and with our parents. So those are really charged, intense connections, and there are a lot of dimensions there. Your child, even though they're in a little body, there's so much wisdom, and there's so much you may not quite see that they're working out. That's another piece to my son's story that I started to see, looking at my pregnancy and what he was embodying and how it was a part of my own journey. So when he was going through certain things and he was almost like processing things, like some of it was his, some of it was mine, some of it was ours. So there's a lot of triggering for the best of purposes, because when those triggers would happen in me, it brought up so much awareness, like, oh my goodness, I thought I had really gotten to another level on this. This is a whole new layer I need to work on.
And how great is that?
That's amazing!
You heal.
That's amazing to have my wise little masters constantly teaching me. But when you're in those very practical, grounded parenting kind of moments, you got to find your center, and then it's like, all right, now I'm going to take the space I need to really do my own self-care so that again and again and again I can show up from this space.
Yeah, I kind of sometimes call that the level 1 reset and level 2. Like,
yes.
Yeah, in the moment, your presence is to support your little one, or your not so little one,
right?
right? And then sometimes then you go and have your greater reset where you really take care of yourself, because you still might be angry, you still might feel so defeated or so disrespected, and then it's up to you to self nurture. And yeah, if you need to express, just
yes.
kind of like, we were talking about when I first sat down, like, you've got to like let those emotions out. You have got to nurture yourself so that you're replenishing. And it's okay. Like, emotions are wonderful. The beauty of this is like, yeah, let's have emotions. And oh my goodness, we get to not be so fearful of them, and we learn to self-soothe.
Yeah.
And support each other in that self-soothing.
So as you were speaking, I was also thinking, and I'm just going to ask this as a question, even though I know the answer. So this basically applies to any relationship, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Our
relationship to self,
yes.
your partners,
work.
I'm a program director for a long time, and it's how I engaged with the contractors that I supported, and who I supervised. I mean, it's all about the connection and relationship.
Yeah.
And nurturing inner wealth. Yeah, everyone wants to be seen, valued, respected, and understood.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can speak from the heart with through the lens of appreciation, mm-hmm. like you get way further than anything that you would ever think that you expect.
Oh, so powerful. Yeah, that level of connection. There was one time when you did a workshop here, and there was something you said that was so powerful, and it was like, connect, don't correct. Because we all have a tendency, whether it's in work-related circumstances or in our house or with our spouse, where we may our go-to, like maybe we're like, hey honey, I need you to do this, or I saw this didn't get done yet, or have you done your homework, or you didn't clean your plate, or it's like, and it's not that we don't address those things that still need to be done, or the issues that might have happened in the day, but when our go-to becomes like, let's bring out and really appreciate the good stuff that's here and connect in a good way. Wow, right? I mean, that you build the relationship of connection, and then when we go to, okay, and now we can address all these tasks, you come from a different place. Like, almost I can feel like when you're not connecting first from that appreciative, heart open space, how it can be like, like you get defensive. Like, I don't want to do that, Mom.
That's why
I'm out of here.
That's why the first
door
stand,
slam.
The first stand is not to energize negative. The first thing that you want to do is see the person in front of you, and it not be about the thing you want them to do for that to have their value. Their value needs to be unconditional. Like, they need to know their value is enough. Mm-hmm. Now, I love that I see your eyes. You're giving me wonderful eye contact right now. You're so attentive. I need you to go get the garbage. Would you go take the garbage out? Yeah. Okay. Now, I wouldn't always bid you. I usually would say, I need you to.
I need you to. That's an important thing that I learned as well, because this isn't a question, right? Because a question means I have a choice and I can say no.
Yeah. So I kind of did that. I kind of did that on purpose, because unless it's an option, unless it's an option for yes or no, I need you to, or it's time to. Because it's just clarity. Stand 3.
Yes. Clarity.
And you want to create an opportunity that you're setting up your child for success. You are creating that moment, and any moment that you can create to give recognition. And to me, recognition is different than praise. Praise is that thing you did tells me whether you're good or bad. Right. That's how we end up downloading. Good job, way to go. You're great. Whereas a recognition is, hey, this thing that you did, and it could be the simplest thing that, you stacked one Lego on top of the other Lego, that shows you are inventive. Mm-hmm. And that the qualities we most want to share, it needs to be that we most like want to see. We want to say it in the moment that it's happening, and by doing that, hey, that thing you did, it shows me the greatness that you are.
Yeah.
It's not the future potential; it's here you are,
Right.
and that changes your kid's self-talk. And then when you're using the approach with yourself, it changes your self-talk and the little automatic narratives of what you think about yourself.
Yeah. Wow. One of the ways, the analogies that I use when I speak about this is, being a hummingbird parent.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a level of presence where sometimes when you're learning this, it's like, oh God, I mean, my life is already what it is. How am I going to incorporate this when it feels like it might be this another level of intensity of how I connect in? It's not. It's so much more energetically conservative. That's been my experience personally. So it's like I buzz in that moment, and it's like, boop, tap into your sweetness. I'm gone. I'm not going to be hovering like, because then that loses its power too.
Yeah, you just kind of glide by, and just give a little recognition. Or sometimes say it's like kind of the salt and pepper. Just kind of salt and pepper in it a little bit. Not like you're pouring the
right. And I think that piece of this that's also important just to bring up is like one of the things, to go back to the beginning, when our kids are behaving really well, which is more often than not, if you're really honest, and it can be hard to see that when we have intensity coming up, we tend to just be like, whew, like we're gone. We may be present, but we're gone. We're doing our work. We're taking care of business. Right. It's a free moment, and then the acting out happens, and of course, then we're fully engaged. And that's the piece where when you flip it and you're just boop boop in those good moments, then you don't have as many of those intense moments. So that's a big part of the outcome that I've personally experienced in the practice.
It's shifting into the nurtured heart approach. We say, give your $100 bills to what's going right.
Yeah.
And, you don't even want to flip a penny at what's going wrong.
Right. Yeah. Wow. We have one more comment from my buddy Barbara. That is huge. Witnessing the experience rather than engaging in it allows each to have their own moment. Yes. Yes. So powerful. Any final remarks? And then I'd love you to put a little plug in for what you might have coming up this fall.
I want to honor the ladies for sharing their beautiful words of wisdom and insight. Gosh, it was like poetic. you both expressed yourself so beautifully and poetically. Yeah, so
she just did it, by the way. She's nurturing your hearts.
And I don't know. I don't know when I'm doing it. There was nothing on purpose there.
I know, but it's so beautiful because it is you, and that's what there are a lot of people who do this as a practice, but you embody it at such a high level. It's just your essence. So that's what I really, that's why I was so excited to have you here today.
So I'm having a class, and the reason it's been a while since I have had a Nurtured Heart Approach 6-week class. Now is the time. School's getting ready to start. There's been so much going on in these last, however many months. I'm going to call it a year and a half, even though it hasn't been quite a year and a half. I know that there's a need we have to really look right now at how to do things differently to create success. And I don't know who's truly been able this summer to replenish the level of exhaustion, the level of fear and worry, is so high, and so that's why I want to make sure that I'm doing this class, and it's going to start on August 8th, and it's going to happen over 7 weeks, but it's a 6-week course, and Labor Day weekend you're off, but I'm doing it on Sunday nights from 4 to 6, and it is the Nurtured Heart Approach. The focus is on parents and caregivers and therapists, educators. However, anyone can take the class. It will be spoken through the lens of interacting with kids, but I've often had almost kind of a, maybe not quite a whole split class, but you know, grown-ups for their own relationships or for their holistic practices have come and found great value, and I speak to how this will serve you. So I kind of do both. I mean, you've been in the class. I kind of speak to everyone. But what you do each week is you're going to learn the foundations of the approach, because it's each week then you practice the different strategies so that you really by the end you fully know how to move between those stands. It's not linear. You're not just always operating linearly. You're kind of like in this dance of how to create the perfect balance in the imperfect world.
Yes.
Of the approach. You can't do it wrong.
Right.
You can't do it wrong. And what else should I say about that? What did I miss?
Yeah. Well, where's it going to be?
Yeah, I'm just realizing where it's going to be. Yeah, I'm doing a fun collaboration. It's going to be in Zionsville at the Cabin. I think the official name is Cabin Family and Resource Center, if I have that right, guys. And
I'll make sure to get it all that way.
Yeah, we'll make sure you have the information. The class it's a small class. I probably won't have over 12, maybe a little more, but 10 to 12, because I want it to be intimate enough to where it's a safe space and everybody has their needs met. And you do get the book. The book is Transforming the Intense Child by Howard Glasser. And that's, okay, what else?
I had one other question that I think some people may have as well. So as a partner, as a parent, as somebody who might be in a workspace, what if you're the only one who is diving into this practice? Can it still have impact? I mean, especially in a situation where you might have the dynamic of two parents, and maybe even one who doesn't completely agree with what you're doing.
The truth is, it takes one person. Think about your life and that one person that you will always hear that voice in your head, and it helps you make decisions, especially in those most pivotal moments. It's helpful when it's more than one, but it's not necessary. It isn't.
Well, I'm here to speak to that. That's what I wanted to bring up. I've had various states of like, everybody's in, nobody's in, like, but she's right. She's absolutely right. And the deepest practice, just to say this again, I can't reiterate, is the practice within.
Yeah.
The more you practice this for yourself, which really is about nurturing your own heart, the more you just align with it, and it's just the embodiment of how you live every day.
Yeah.
Every moment.
It's your lens of perception.
Yeah.
It becomes your lens of perception.
Yay.
You know, the other thing with the class, what can be helpful if you do feel like you're the lone person, like I know that through classes in the past, like folks end up connecting. And you know, when you're like doing this weird nurtured heart thing, like you know, people sometimes might be like, oh, you're not doing anything, you know, and you worry about the judgment because you're doing things a little different than you otherwise would. It's really helpful when you have that, you know, a little bit of that support. And,
the other thing that I did that was really received well, and I want to say this on the video and also to you, and you might not even know that I did this, when I was really in the thick of it and things were really intense and they were showing up everywhere, even in school, I went and spoke with teachers. And I gave them the book and I told them what I'm doing, and I gave them a little bit of encouragement about how they might be able to support my child. And I found they were, I mean, I'm not a great school, but I found they were very receptive. And of course, because a big piece of this was actually designed for schools to be used.
Oh yeah, it's used as a social emotional curriculum. Gosh, it's worldwide now.
Yeah,
I mean, lots of places in the States. Really wonderful success in the inner city schools. Just it's powerful. It's powerful, that level of connection.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so excited that Heather's bringing her class back. Was I the last one that you did?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
It's time. It's time. So, all right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next Friday. Cool.